the previous segment, we discussed one method by which Homo sapiens might upgrade itself into something completely different, and this is biological engineering. Another method to upgrade humans is cyborg engineering. Cyborgs are beings that combine organic and inorganic parts, such as a human with bionic hands. In a sense, all of us are cyborgs these days, since our natural senses and functions are supplemented and improved by devices such as eyeglasses and pacemakers and even computers. Computers perform more and more tasks previously done by our organic brains and memories. However, in the near future, this process is likely to go much, much further. We are likely to start having inorganic devices connected directly to our brains and to our nervous systems. Devices that will be inseparable from us and that will change our abilities, desires, personalities, and identities. One example is the bionic ear. We already have functioning prototypes of bionic ears. A bionic ear means an implant that absorbs sound wave through a microphone located on the outer part of the ear. The implant filters these sounds, identifies human voices and other important sounds, and translates these sounds into electric signals that are then sent directly to the central auditory nerve and from there to the brain. Such a bionic ear can not only enable deaf people to start hearing, but it can also enable healthy people to acquire amazing new hearing abilities. The same can be done with bionic eyes, bionic noses, and even bionic arms and legs. You see here before you a picture, a real picture, of Jesse Sullivan holding hands with Claudia Mitchell. Jesse is an American electrician who lost both his arms up to the shoulder in 2001 in an accident. Claudia has lost one arm in a motorcycle accident. Both of them now use bionic arms. The amazing thing about these bionic arms is that they are operated by thought alone. Neural signals arriving from the brain are translated by microcomputers, very small computers, into electric commands. And according to these commands, the arms move. When Jesse or Claudia want to move the right arm, they do whatever any normal person unconsciously does. When I want to move my arm up, I don't know, I just think about it, it moves. Exactly the same thing Jesse and Claudia can now do with their bionic arm. They just think about it and the arm moves. At present, these bionic arms are a very poor replacement for the organic originals, but they have the potential for unlimited technological development. Bionic arms, for example, in the future, not in the distant future, in the near future, can be made much more powerful than the organic arms, even of the world's boxing champion. Moreover, bionic arms have the very big advantage that they can be replaced every few years or upgraded whenever a new model appears on the market. They can also be detached from the body and operated at a distance. We are used to all the parts of our body being connected here as part of a single body, but this is just our organic body's work. Once you have organic hands and organic eyes and ears and so forth, there is no reason why they all the time have to be connected and be in the same room or the same city or even the same continent or planet. Scientists at Duke University in North Carolina have recently demonstrated this with rhesus monkeys. They took rhesus monkeys and implanted in the brains of the monkeys electrodes. The electrodes gather signals from the brain and transmit these signals to external devices that control arms and legs and so forth. The monkeys were trained to control detached bionic arms and legs through thought alone. One monkey, called Aurora, learned how to control only with her mind, only with her thought, a detached bionic arm, while simultaneously moving her two organic arms. So Aurora is now like some Hindu goddess. She has 3 arms. And her arms can be located, at least the third arm can be located in a different room, in another city, in another continent. Aurora can sit in a laboratory in North Carolina, scratch her head with one hand, scratch her back with another hand, and simultaneously steal a banana in New York with the third hand, which she controls by the mind alone. And as far as she is concerned, this is a hand of hers. She feels it like a hand. Another of Aurora's companions, a rhesus monkey called Idoia, became very famous in the year 2008 when she thought-controlled a pair of bionic legs which were positioned at the time in Japan from her chair in North Carolina. She sat in North Carolina with her brain connected through the internet to these legs in Japan, and she walked in Japan with the thought, even though the legs in Japan were 20 times the weight of Idoia's entire body. Another very interesting development concerns the possibility to mind read, to read the content, the thoughts in the mind of a person. There is a very severe disease which is called the locked-in syndrome, because people who suffer from it are kind of locked in. People who have locked-in syndrome gradually lose nearly all their ability to move all parts of their bodies, but their cognitive abilities to feel and to think and so forth, they remain intact, and they become locked inside their bodies, unable to do anything. Now, people suffering from this terrible syndrome have up till now been able to communicate with the outside world only through very small eye movements. They can still make very small eye movements, and this is how they signify yes or no and things like that. However, there are now studies in which patients that suffer from this syndrome had electrodes implanted in their brains, like what they did with the monkeys. And these electrodes also, they gather signals from the brains. And scientists are making an effort to translate these signals not only into movements of bionic arms and legs and computers and so forth, but also to translate them into words. If the experiments succeed, it means that locked-in syndrome, people who suffer from locked-in syndrome would be able to speak directly with the outside world, with the computer as a translator, translating their brain signals into words. And also, if this succeeds, it means that we will have at our disposal the ability to read the thoughts in the mind of another person directly, whether he wants it or not. Just think what the CIA, for example, could do with such an amazing invention. However, of all the projects currently under development in the field of cyber engineering, the most revolutionary project is the attempt to create a two-way brain-computer interface that will allow computers to read the electrical signals of a human brain while simultaneously transmitting signals that the brain can read and interpret and understand. Now, just imagine what if such direct interfaces are used to directly link a brain to the internet? So you can surf the internet just with your consciousness, not with fingers and eyes. Or to directly link several brains to the same computer, and thereby linking all of them together and creating a sort of inter-brain net. What might happen in such a case to things like human memory, human consciousness, human identity, if the brain can have direct access to collective databanks and collective memories? In such a situation, one cyborg could, for example, retrieve the memories of somebody else, not to hear about them, not to read about them in a book, not to imagine how this person must have felt, but to directly remember the memories of somebody else as if they were his own, or perhaps her own. What happens to concepts like gender identity when minds become collective, and when a man can actually remember the memories of a woman? Nobody knows the answer to these complicated questions. What is quite clear is that such cyborgs would no longer be humans. They would not even be organic creatures, organic animals. They would be something completely different from us and from any other animal. They would be so fundamentally another kind of being that we cannot even begin to grasp the philosophical, the psychological, and the political implications of such an eventuality. So this is the second method by which Homo sapiens may upgrade itself into some other kind of being, by using cyborg engineering. The third method for creating some kind of new entities that will take our place in the world is by engineering completely non-organic beings. Cyborgs still combine brains with computers, all kinds of organic parts with inorganic parts, but there is a possibility of creating completely non-organic beings without any organic parts. The most obvious example is computer programs and computer viruses that can undergo independent evolution and can develop and learn new things independently. Computer scientists today are trying to create learning computer programs that can learn by themselves, that can evolve completely independently of the person who initially programmed, who initially created this program. The first such independently learning program would be created by a human, but once it exists, it can start evolving in new and very different directions, which neither its maker nor any other humans could ever have predicted. A prototype of such a program and of their evolution already exists, and it is called a computer virus. As the computer virus spreads through the internet, the virus is replicated millions upon millions of times, all the time being chased by predatory antivirus programs that try to destroy it, and all the time competing with other viruses and other programs for the limited space in cyberspace. Now, what happens if one day, when the virus replicates itself, some mistake occurs, some computerized mutation? Perhaps the mistake, the mutation, occurs because the human engineer that initially programmed the virus programmed it to make random replication mistakes every now and then. Perhaps the mutation occurs due to some random error, not pre-planned. If, by chance, the new virus, the modified version of the virus, is better at evading antivirus programs without losing its ability to invade other computers, then this new version of the virus will spread quickly through cyberspace. And if so, the mutant viruses will survive and reproduce better than the previous versions. And as time goes by, cyberspace will become full of new viruses that no human engineered, viruses that undergo non-organic evolution. Now, are these living creatures, is this life? It depends on what you mean by the term life and living creatures. But what is certain is that there is here a new pathway, a new method for evolution, a new evolutionary process which is completely independent of the organic world, of the laws and limitation of organic evolution. Now imagine another possibility. Suppose you could take your brain and back it up on a computer and then run it on the computer. Would your computer be able to think and to feel like a sapiens? And if so, would it be you or would it be somebody else? What if computer programmers could create an entirely new but digital mind composed of computer code and complete with a sense of self and memories and so forth? If you ran such a program on your computer, would it be a person? If you delete it, could you be charged with murder? This sounds very, very hypothetical, all these questions, but we might have the answer to these questions much sooner than most people realize. In 2005, scientists launched the Blue Brain Project. And the Blue Brain Project hopes to recreate a complete human brain inside a computer with electronic circuits in the computer emulating the neural networks in the brain. Whatever all the electric signals in the brain that this neuron sends to this neuron, so they hope to replicate it inside the computer with electronic signals from this circle to this circle in the computer. Now, the program's director has claimed that if the project receives proper funding, within a mere decade or two, we could have an artificial human brain inside a computer, an artificial bionic brain that could talk and feel and behave much as a human does. Not all scholars agree that this is possible, because many scholars argue that the mind works in a manner which is very different from the way that computers work. So it will never be possible to create a mind inside the computer. There's a lot of argument about it. However, we should note that just a few months ago, in April 2013, the European Union decided to make the Blue Brain Project the flagship of European science in the years to come, and to donate 1 billion euros to finance this project. Again, 1 billion euros, not 1 million, 1 billion. So at least the heads of the European Union, of the science department of the European Union, they think that there is serious possibility of this Blue Brain project succeeding. These then are the three main methods by which Homo sapiens might upgrade itself into some other kind of being, with biological engineering, with cyborg engineering, and with the engineering of non-organic life. If any of these methods succeed, if this really occurs, what would be the social and the political and the ethical implications of such a thing? We will discuss these social and political and ethical implications in the next segment of this lesson.